Good evening. My name is Ward Keever. I am the founder and CEO of Covenant Wealth Strategies. Today is Wednesday, September 28, 2022. I'm joined this evening by Michelle Fisher, who is a member of our Covenant leadership team and will be handling our technology this evening. We're so excited to be hosting Jonathan Ekeland as our special guest speaker this evening. Jonathan is a guidance counselor for Wilmington Christian School and has been a guidance counselor for over 25 years. We actually hosted Jonathan 18 months ago and got such rave reviews that we invited him back. We were delighted that he said yes. And instead of doing it in the spring as we did 18 months ago, we're going to do it in the fall when everyone is back to school. And we're speaking with clients this week who are doing college visits. So this is a relevant topic. A little bit more background on Jonathan. He has helped to prepare thousands of high school students throughout his career for college and their careers. And we appreciate that he brings a fresh and pragmatic approach to this topic of getting, saving, and losing money for college. Jonathan is married to his wife, Renee, for over 30 years. They met at church. They have 2 Sheltie dogs. And growing up, Jonathan's father ran an adoption center, so he's used to those in need coming to live with him. So that was a little fun fact that we learned. Jonathan enjoys being outside. He enjoys stand-up paddleboarding in Marsh Creek and loves going to the Outer Banks for vacation. So here is an interesting fact that you may not know about Jonathan or myself, but we have bonded because we both surf. And so that's also something in the Outer Banks that we do. So Jonathan is passionate about helping and supporting the students that he works with. And so we are delighted to have Jonathan with us this evening. We're going to go ahead and flip to the next slide, which is disclosures. So this is the compliance and legal part of our presentation. And so this needs to be up there for a couple of seconds anyway. But if you can't speed read this presentation or this disclosure slide, we are recording this. It will be available on our website. So if you just at 3 o'clock in the morning are laying awake in bed, just thinking about this disclosure slide and you just really want to know what it said, you'll be able to go to our website where there will be a recording of this presentation and you can pull up the disclosure slide. I think that's long enough for that slide to be up there. So then when we talk about questions, if you have questions through the presentation this evening, we're going to ask you to send your questions by email to Michelle, that's with 2 L's, Michelle at covenantwealthstrategies.com, and we will hold your questions until the end, and then we'll have a Q&A time with Jonathan. So with all of that being said, without further ado, here is Jonathan Ekeland to talk about getting, saving, and losing money for college.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ward, for the generous introduction. Thank you, Michelle, for running the show here. Greetings. I hope we have a lot of parents, grandparents, maybe even some students tuning in here, whether it's hearing later from the video or certainly right now on this Wednesday evening. I'd like to start off, which is kind of unusual, but we need to have perspective when we're looking at money. Obviously, very important topic for college. It kind of runs the show. And I want to look at, before we get into more nitty and gritty, that I really need you and want you to look at everything we talk about this evening as a scholarship. Everyone loves scholarships. The name is, gets everyone's attention. Oh, I applied for this scholarship. I got this scholarship. And not everything really obviously is a scholarship, but for the point of this evening, I want you to look at everything as a scholarship. And if you want to keep track on your own, keep tally of some possible things that you and your student could add to, I'll say, that pile of money, and we'll be talking about that, and reducing that other pile of money. Please consider it a scholarship. So I'm going to make that plug. Scholarship be summer work. I'm going to work 40 hours a week for $12 an hour, I'm going to earn a few $1,000s. Let's call that a scholarship. Or I'm a resident assistant and I'm getting half my room and board. That's $6,000, $8,000. Let's call that a scholarship, and on, so we can keep those totals going. So again, just a little bit different way of looking at it. And I also want you to look at the totality at the end of the evening, and we'll have a tally sheet, kind of just an arbitrary tally sheet. So when you're looking at a typical school, let's say it's a $50,000 school. Obviously UD is not $50,000, but a lot of private schools are, even public schools from out of state, with the room and board and books and everything. It's going to be close to 50. It's a nice round number. 4 times 50 is $200,000. Let's make sure we can see how can we reduce that, not just by your typical classical scholarship, but by other pieces, to bring that bottom line down. And I think that's going to be important for us tonight, excuse me, to keep in mind.
Jonathan, I'm going to interrupt you right there,
please.
because I think it's important we talk about the idea of saving money for college.
Right.
But one of the things that I really appreciate about your presentation and your perspective is that you really place a huge emphasis on saving money on college. That is to say, don't just save towards this $200,000 goal and, you know, crush yourself trying to put enough money away for each of your kids to, you know, $200,000. But you look at it and say, well, don't just save for college, figure out ways to save on the cost of college. And I think that that's just something I really want to highlight as we prepare to go through this presentation this evening, because that's really I think the thrust of your presentation.
I think that and the last part is the meat of this. Most kids going to college, we always hear, when I look at newspaper articles you see on the news, they're always talking about Ivy League this and Ivy League that, and I understand that because it's Harvard, it's Princeton, it's Yale, it's Dartmouth, it's Penn. But your typical student going to college, you look at College Board, and the students that are taking the SAT, their typical average GPA, it depends on the school, 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, and the average SAT score for the last 40, 50 years is about 1,050. So I'm going to get about a 525 on the math and reading. Most kids, me included, can't speak for anybody else, most kids are not getting 3.6, 3.8 unweighted, and are not getting 1,200, 1410 on the SAT, but they're still going to college. That's the majority of students. And the majority of them are not going to Georgetown or Swarthmore or Stanford. They're going to Iowa State. They're going to Ohio State. They're going to smaller private schools that maybe aren't as highly competitive. And so I want to address that as well, because it's so easy to talk to the student, well, he's going to get a $30,000 scholarship. Of course he is. Of course Ward is. It's like, well, I'm not going to get that. So how can we make this work? And I think that's really important, because we need to talk to, I'll say, the average student going to college. And anything above that, you know, if you've been given brains and hard work, then that, to me, that's a plus in that column. So we'll move on, and we'll get to getting money. And to start off with this, before I actually turn it over to Ward, there's nothing really new under the sun when it comes to getting money. If there was, we'd all be doing it. There just isn't. But we still need to review to make sure, are we doing a good enough job in the things that are before us? And I think a lot of students need some help, and some families need some help to make sure we've checked off every box. Have we looked under every stone? So the first one that comes to mind, some of you have been saving, some of you have not, is the 529 plan. So like Ward to address that, if you may.
Sure. So just a few comments on saving for the cost of college. There are a number of different vehicles out there. Back in the old days, we had the UGMA and UTMA, Uniform Gift to Minors, Uniform Transfer to Minors. We really don't see those being used these days. There's the Coverdell ESA plans that are available, and again, we really don't see those being used. The 529 plan is really the dominant tool that's used to save for the cost of college. Where do you come up with the name 529? It's really original. It's the same place they come up with 401k or 403b. It's literally the section of the Internal Revenue Code, section 529 of the Internal Revenue Code is where they come up with the name. But 529 plans there are two primary types. One is a prepaid college savings plan. The other is just a college savings plan where you contribute money. You don't see too much with prepaid. The vast majority of the 529 plans out there are college savings plans where you're saving and accumulating money. Each state offers one or more 529 college savings plans. Some states will provide you with a tax benefit, a state income tax benefit for using their in-state plan. So for example, if you're in Virginia or Ohio, if you're a resident of those states and you are the one who is contributing to the 529, so to be clear, it doesn't matter where the student lives. If you are a parent or a grandparent and you are contributing to a 529 for another individual, even if it's not a child or a grandchild, maybe it's for a niece or a nephew or something else, it matters where the account owner or where the contributor lives. So if you live in Virginia or Ohio or some state, you will get a state income tax benefit, but only if you use the in-state plan. There are other states, for example, Pennsylvania, where you will get a state income tax benefit if you use any state's plan. And then finally, there are some states like Delaware where there's no tax benefit. So you could use Delaware's plan or any state benefit, any other state plan. But a 529 college savings plan allows you to save or accumulate money for school. The money grows technically tax sheltered, and if the money comes out for qualifying expenses at an eligible institution of higher learning, that's going to be tuition, room, board, books, certain technology expenses and subscriptions, the money comes out tax-free. So to be able to put the money in on an after-tax basis federally, potentially pre-tax depending upon the state where you live, have the money grow tax-sheltered, and then come out tax-free. The other thing that they've done with 529s, which has kind of lessened the relevance of some of these other plans, is you can now use up to $10,000 per year to cover tuition at kindergarten through 12th grade private schools, right? And they also recently allow you to now use up to $10,000 during the lifetime of the beneficiary to put towards student loans. So 529 is a pretty flexible, pretty powerful accumulation tool, and so we're big advocates of 529s, and we do a lot of 529 planning for our clients.
That's a classic. I'm really putting aside money.
Saving money just for the cost of college.
You can't beat that. That's great. Thanks, Ward. As far as, can we go back to the 529? That's all right. The exterior and interior scholarships, I want to talk about actual scholarships that we'd be getting from different institutions. The exterior part would be scholarships that you can get outside of college, outside of the school you're looking at, university. There's three different places to look in general. One is to look locally, one is to look, I'll say, regionally or statewide, and the third would be nationally. Nationally is the really cool, fun part that everyone goes to right away. Coca-Cola is giving out $5 million. Ooh, I want a piece of that. Sure you do. There's also 859,000 other students that want that. So scholarship in a lot of places is really about odds when it comes to exterior. It's like, how many students am I competing against? Even though my essay might be great, it's still 500,000 people. It doesn't mean you overlook that, but what are you doing during the summer on Tuesday nights between 8 and 8:30? I'm looking for exterior scholarships. So I go online. There's dozens of different sites, places you can go to just access that. You just start Googling, and there's too many to come up with. I'm not even going to list any because they keep growing. The regional part, Delaware is a beautiful place. I live in Pennsylvania, and they don't have, maybe it's because of the size, but they have a beautiful site. Go to delawarecolleges.com, and they list 100+ scholarships alphabetically, and you can just take a look at all of them and say, like, oh, this looks appropriate for me, and just start plugging away. Again, you're competing against how many seniors are graduating, say, next year in May, June of 2023. Let's say there's, I don't know, 40,000 in Delaware. Well, there's about 4 million in the country. So we're looking at something medium. Like, I like those odds, and I'm looking at one scholarship, so maybe only 1,000 kids are applying. And then locally is the best way to go. So I'm going to spend any time spending searching for anything exterior. So let's look locally. your local JCs, Rotary, Lions, Kiwanis, Sons of Norway, Daughters of the Revolution, all kinds of things that are local. I've known a number of students have gotten $2,000, $3,000 because they're only competing against, I don't know, 29 students, 110 students, 83. So again, they're writing a 2-page essay maybe. Hopefully that takes them an hour and a half. They submit it, they turn it in. Hey, that's a summer or half a summer's worth of work for 2 hours worth of work. So if you're going to look for exterior, look small and local, and you're going to spend more time than look statewide, because again, it's odds. And then to me, the Powerball is the national, Coca-Cola, Hewlett-Packard's giving away money. Then spend time looking for that. And so you check that off, like, all right, honey, we did this, and that's what we're going to do. The interior scholarships are the ones that are coming directly from the college themselves. They might have something to do with where you live. You live in Wyoming, and we want to have a student or two from Wyoming. You might just get a scholarship for that. You don't care about your grades or plans. You live in Wyoming. They have all kinds of things like that. And typically, they would give you a list of what you might qualify for. If there's a list there, I would take a look because, no offense, people miss things, and that scholarship could be worth $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. And I want to, again, not turn any stone unturned. So let's look under the rocks. Let's make sure we're seeing everything at UCLA or Clemson, Ohio State, wherever we're applying, that we're looking at. Did we get every possible interior scholarship from that school? Endowed scholarships. I've shown students when they used to have catalogs, if you know what those are, and I'd flip through and there's 10 pages of scholarships. And this one school had a scholarship from that regarded those students that resided in New England can apply. I'm asking the students, like, how many kids are going to the small private school from New England? I don't know, 80, 110? Oh, do you like those odds? But the only way to find that, it was in the catalog. They're not going to tell you necessarily. So again, have them certainly communicate that to you, but also take a look and make sure that you're not missing anything, because you could be missing, quite a nice scholarship for yourself.
So one of the things that you said, Jonathan, was if I have a summer job, if I'm working a summer job, I might make a few $1,000s over the course of 40 hours a week, $12 an hour, or whatever but if I spend a few hours a week searching for and applying for these scholarships, that could equate the entire earnings from my summer job. So when our boys were in school, we talked to them about the idea of making applications for scholarships, as far as we were concerned, was part of their summer job.
There you go. I think, and we'll get to the very end as far as having a plan, but as you're looking through this, you need to be thinking not just the tally of some possible things for your family, but what is the plan to do that? A lot of kids are busy, or no offense, they think they're too busy. I'm lifeguarding for 30 hours a week, Mr. Ekeland. I'm really tied up. I'm like, no, you're not. You have this time. And you need to physically plug it in and say, when am I doing this and where am I doing this? Sometimes we need accountability. That's why I say maybe I need to do this thing at the dining room table between 8 and 9 on a Tuesday night during the summer. And that's my homework. That's part of my job. That's part of the family income. And let's see what we can get from this. And so absolutely, I think it needs to be equated and into your plan. So again, another thing to be put into that. Loans means debt. Loans is a nicer way of saying debt, and most of us need loans for some reason or the other, mostly for our home, our mortgage, cars, and then certainly for college. Probably 95% of students are getting some type of loan to make that happen. Not everybody can afford the $30,000 or $60,000 a year. So there's a few different kinds or places to look. One is the government, and that's going to come from the school you go to. There's different loans, and depending on the university. So starting this Sunday, technically, if you have a senior, and if you don't know, FAFSA, Free Application for Student Assistance program, starts on October 1st. You can make an application for it. They reduced the number of questions, something like from 108 to 36, which is huge. And they're looking for tax information. So with the FAFSA, in order to get loans, you apply to the government. It's free. That's the first F of FAFSA. And now every college and university in the country has access to that information, because you've made it available for them. So the college you apply to will go and grab that information, and then will apply it to their particular college, university, as far as the tuition, the cost of this, the size of the endowment. And so they'll be able to personally create for you a financial aid package. And they usually email it these days. Sometimes they might email and send it via a hard copy in the mail. And it'll be structured as something you've never seen one before. Do you accept this scholarship for $5,000 a year, the Dean's Scholarship? Yes, we do. Do you accept this blank loan for $6,000 a year? Yes, I want that. What about a work study? What about so on and so forth? So at the very end, your total to attend that school might be $42,000, and you have loans and maybe some scholarships that add up to $40,000. So now you need to go and get the other $2,000 a year to make that $42,000 bottom number. But so your loans from the government are typically going to be through the school because you're applying to the government with that information you're applying through FAFSA. Personal loans could be, certainly, where am I going to come with the $2,000? Or maybe our family is short $14,000 a year, and we still don't have that in savings. So then we go to Sunny's Federal Credit Union or a local bank, and with interest rates rising, that's going to be hurting a little bit more. But that's what a number of families do, is to make those things meet. And then it's a matter of sitting, I think, down with your son or daughter and saying, well, who's paying for what? And to me, that's one of the first questions every student and parent family should have. Who's paying for what before you can go down the line? Is it 50-50? Did Nana have something saved up I didn't know about? And these are things that you should be doing and meeting about weekly, or at least every other week. This is part of your plan. I like to have students taking charge. It could be the Ward Keever LLC, and here's Ward 17 and a half, and he's coming to the meeting, the kitchen table. It's Sunday night, it's 6:30. All right, everybody's here. Mom's the sergeant at arms, dad's the treasurer, whatever it's going to be. And Ward, the student, runs the show because it's his education. So let Ward run the show. And he can hold questions. Mom, don't ask me any questions. Wait for the meeting. That'll be new business. And he brings has some fun with it. But he should, or she should be running the show. So that's what we do. When we look at the loans, the grants, all these things, let's make sure we're on the same page. Because I know there's a lot of juniors and seniors that I talk to, they don't have a clue. When I ask them, who's on the hook for this? And they're like, I don't know. I'm like, you better find out soon. Before someone starts paying a penny for just applying. Applying is going to be $75. I'm going to apply to 10 schools. Honey, that's $750. How about we'll pay the first 5, you pay anything after that. Okay, that's a nice compromise, whatever it's going to be, but we need to have discussions. It's room and board. It's books. Books could be $800 to $2,000 a year. Where's that coming from? Well, honey, we're just doing tuition. Who's swiping the card at the bookstore? You need to have that conversation. So anyway, so that ties into the personal piece. Grants is very similar. In one sense, it's kind of another name for scholarship. You stand out. They're looking at all these applications from the government, corporations. Again, Coca-Cola might have something a little bit different. Foundations have grants for students, for academics. Where dad works, where mom works, there might be scholarships there. You work for Boeing. I know they used to give a lot of money away back in the day. We had a lot of parents that worked for Boeing. Great. And then they can get in there and get $2,000 a year. I didn't know that. Well, this is what we need to do. We need to dig. And so everyone's on the lookout according to the plan. Dad's looking, mom's looking, students looking. What are we doing every Sunday night? What did you bring to the table? What did you find out? How can we put this together? So we're building up this package, this tally, to reduce that total $200,000. Move on.
I think one of the key differences I would just also say is that loans, under normal circumstances, need to be paid back, whereas grants and scholarships do not. And again, I remember when we were doing college visits with our 2 sons, and it was interesting to hear them say that over 90% of all their students receive financial aid, which I interpreted or heard as receive grants or scholarships, which in fact was not the case. So in fact, it's nearly 100% of their students receive financial aid
Yes.
when you factor in loans.
In one form or the other, yeah.
You got it.
Yeah,
You got it.
absolutely.
So I think it's just really important to distinguish when a
Right.
college says, hey, 100% of our students receive financial
Right.
aid, that includes loans,
Right.
which under normal circumstances need to be repaid.
And that's that financial aid package. I got this, I got that. Lots of different things. You want it all, do you want different pieces? You can turn things away. I don't want the work study. I'm going to work off campus. Great. But again, they're going to have that there, but it is very good to know, let's make sure we know what we're talking about, you know, as we're applying and getting that information.
And if you're taking loans, let's be sure we understand how they work, what's the interest rate, what
Yeah.
are the repayment terms, how long does it defer?
Yeah. Let me talk about debt for a second, and I'm going to use simple math, and he'll correct me. He'll have to get his calculator out. I'm trying to give you a general idea because I want kids to know, oh, I only end up owing the school $40,000 or $75,000. This is very general terms. For about every $10,000 of debt you have, typically they want you to pay it off in 10 years. I know people in their 40s still paying it off. Doctors in their 50s still paying it off. But in 10 years, so that's what you need to look at and work with. So for every $10,000 for 10 years, you're going to write a check for about, you know, give me some leeway, about $100. Nice round numbers. So every month, $100 for 10 years. You have a $40,000 loan. Most kids are in debt. The typical average debt for student is almost 40, so we'll go to 40. That's a $400 check that Thomas has to write at the age of 21 and a half till he's 31, where he pays it off early. That's $400. And you can, a month.
$5,000 a year.
Yeah, so you can tell them, so that's after taxes, so that's 7,000, 8,000 taxes.
Well,
I want to live in this apartment.
There goes your Roth contribution.
Exactly.
There goes
You know, I want to live in an
future.
apartment. I want to buy this car. It's like, honey, you're going to be living in mommy's basement for a little bit. Wait, Thomas. So when you're 26, you now have met, I don't know, what's her name, Julia. And Julia only has $75,000 in debt. So now we're at $115,000. So somebody's writing a check for $1,115 a month for at least 10 years. But that's what happens, right? And some of you are like shaking like, oh my gosh, yeah, I'm still paying it off, or why did I marry him? Because he's got so much debt, you know? But we need to look at that now before we make the decisions. So at least when we pull that trigger, yes, I want to take this, at least I know what that bottom line is. And to me, the bottom line is writing that check. Do you want to write a check for $100 or $495 a month? And that's your call, because you're going to this school and you have this income or you don't have this income. So again, choices we make.
Yep.
So work and study. Excuse me, I have bad early fall allergies. Work. It's a four-letter word for kids. I don't want to work, or I'm busy, and I understand that. A lot of kids are in sports during the summer and all kinds of things. I'm in Eagle Scout. I'm in karate. I'm in, you know, all kinds of things. We're on vacation for 5 weeks. I'm doing a mission trip for 2 weeks. On and on. I understand. So I'm not belittling any of those things. I'm still going to say, because I'm an old man, I think every student, at least over the age of 16, should be working at least part-time during the summer. I'm 11, I'm doing leaves and lawns and stuff, sure. I'm saving up money to buy a bicycle and whatever. So it's a work ethic. And I think that's also important, almost more important than the money that they make. I only made $1,800, but it's a work ethic. I worked at a lousy place with a lousy boss. You now have more character built into them than if they didn't and just stayed home. Again, that's my opinion. So work. I'm working between, you know, my freshman year and sophomore year. So work is what? What is it now? Scholarship. That work money is part of the scholarship. You put that in the kitty for the major tally at the very end. If I can work X amount of hours, you can do the simple math. Hey, Mom, I can put $4,000 in a year. Sure you can. For how many summers? 4, 5. That's 20 grand. Yeah, that's 20 grand. That's a $20,000 scholarship. Minus the 200. We're whittling this down, and you haven't done anything yet. You haven't applied to school, and we're now down to 180,000 just because I'm working during the summer. SATs, excuse me, for money, that's going to be merit-based scholarship, where schools, especially the smaller private schools, will say if you have a 3.5 GPA and a 1250 SAT, we'll give you $4,000 a month. And if you have this, we'll give you $8,000 and so on and so forth. But again, for your average 3.2, 1050 SAT kid, we're not getting any money that way. But for the kids that have been given a little bit brighter brain than mine and better academics, they have the opportunity to make that. So to me, the SATs are very important. We just had 15 schools come through last year, admissions counselors. So after they've done their lunch visit with the students, I'm always grabbing them, hey, you got 10 minutes. And one of my first questions is, what are you doing with the SAT these days? Like, what do you think? These are the 26-year-olds that are looking at these thousands of applications. So I'm listening to them. Yes, we're test optional, but we'd love to see them. They all said that. Doesn't mean they're not going to, obviously, they're accepting kids left and right without them, but they would love to see them. So I tell my kids, what do you think you should do? Like the SAT. Yeah. And should you study for it? Yeah. When are you going to do that? Oh, that's every Tuesday and Thursday night at the dining room table between 8:30 and 10 o'clock. I'm doing a scholarship on Wednesday, whatever it's going to be. That's part of your plan. So you're going to study for 2 months. So at least when you took it, when you sit there and you took it, you come back, at least you know what that ceiling is for the most part, right? And with the PSATs, we're giving them in 2 weeks. When the results come back, the PSAT, especially for the junior, says, if you study with them, it's a free-based system, Khan Academy, you study at least 10 hours, they basically guarantee you an extra 100 to 130 points more. That's free. That's only 10 hours worth. And I've seen it happen dozens and dozens of times. I've seen kids get up to almost 200 points more. I've never heard or seen kids get 300 points or more. If I get a 1,200, am I going to get a 1,600? I'm sorry. I don't think you're wired to do that. But can I get a 13-something? Sure you can. But I need to study. When are you going to do that? I'm busy. I know you're busy. When are you going to do that? The best time to take the SAT is in August. I know we just finished with that, but that's part of your plan. So if I'm a junior, I'm taking in the spring, I'm taking August because I have all summer to study for it. The last week in August, usually school's not in session. I'm not distracted. Let's do it. The other good thing to do is to take at least 1 or 2 full practice exams. So that means in your plan, the 2 Saturdays prior to the SAT, you should be sitting down at the table for, 3.5 hours and take the full-blown SAT. What else are you doing? Nothing. Okay, then that's what we're going to do. But that's your plan. So I put all these things together, the SAT money, I'm working. Here's my wheelbarrow full of money.
Now, you can take the SAT more than once.
I had a girl take it 5 times. Went to the University of Maryland. Maryland said, Melissa, we need a 1,200. Couldn't do it, couldn't do it, couldn't do it. Got it. Harvard, not going to want to see that. Princeton, not going to see that. So yes, they offer it 7 times a year.
Okay.
So pick and choose wisely when you're going to do it. And just pull the trigger and sign up for it. That's what you need to do. The appeal part. College is, the only way college is similar to buying a car is in this respect, even for used, well, especially for used car. Here's the, the sticker shock, oh my goodness. And then we've been taught, well, we're going to start here. College is similar in that they're asking this, so they give you the financial aid package. We think we can give you this. And from what I can tell and see, you have one good try to make an appeal and say, you know what, an extra $2,000 or $3,000 or whatever it's going to be a year would really help push me over to come to your school, your ABC University. What can you do for me? And who do you think should make that phone call? That's not an email. Who do you think should make it? Not mommy, not daddy. It's going to be the student. Making that phone call, write it out. It's a script. Hi, my name is Thomas, blah, 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 and just read it. Thank you for your time. And they'll get back to you, and they will consider it. They always consider that. But you can't go back 3, 4, 5 times because they're not going to go back to the manager. Let me see what I can do with new wheels. And it's like, no. I think you really only have one good shot at that. And so you make your shot. But make sure, so again, Peel, can I drop that amount down? Make sure you check that box off. Did you ask for more? I think you always tell your kids, it can't hurt to ask. This is one of those times. It can't hurt to ask.
So if you can get $3,000 a year off, That's $12,000.
12,000.
Subtract that from 200,000. Now we're down to about 168, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it keeps dropping. We haven't gotten to the good part yet. It keeps dropping like a rock. Absolutely. All right, next slide. Oh, this is beautiful.
Huge.
This is huge. I'm gonna have some water here. Excuse me.
Making me thirsty.
No, I'm sorry. So graduated early, and I think most people hear this and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm not that smart. I'm not that gifted. I'm not that whatever. Let's look at the math real quick on this, and then we'll get into how we do this. So again, we're going with the $50,000 ABC University. If I graduate a whole year early, the simple math is I'm saving $50,000. Okay? That's a beautiful thing if I can pull that off. That if you remember college credits, that's 30 credits typically. To graduate college, 120 credits on average. You're taking 15 a semester, 15, that's 30 for the year. So basically you're saying to the registrar office, not the admissions people, it's the registrar, here's my 30 credits. I'm graduating early. First thing you need to do is you're looking at your major. Can a marketing major graduate early? Then you're going to talk to the department chair. Oh yeah, we have people do it all the time. What about I'm a nurse? Well, no, you need 4 years of practicum, but I can't for nursing. What about for psychology? Well, sure, you can graduate in 2.5 years if you want, whatever it's going to be. So I'm doing my homework. I'm asking questions to make sure am I capable of doing this? And it might depend on the school you go to. So if you're thinking of 15 different schools in your head, call them up. How long is that phone call? 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 6 minutes? Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. And you find out the information. So if you have the green light for that, again, back to the math, if I just saved $50,000 because I finished early, okay, now I like the marketing major piece. So if I get a job in a month or two doing basic entry-level marketing, what do you think my salary is going to be? And I ask the kids, and they're like, I've heard anywhere from 30 to 130. I'm like, no. So let's just call it, again, 50 as a nice round number. So you need to look at that 4-year total, right? Income coming in, expenses going out. It's $200,000 in 4 years. So if I just save $50,000
by graduating 1 year early.
1 year early, what am I doing a month later while everyone's still in school spending money? I'm hopefully working and making $50,000. So 50 to 50.
And you made 50.
Right. So I'm ahead 100,000. So that's a lot of money.
I can see why you're a good guidance counselor.
All right. Well, it's a matter of doing it and able to do it. But it's $100,000. That's a scholarship. You need to look at that. You're like, wow. But it's going to take work, right? But it's $100,000. That's a lot of money. That's 2 years worth of work for this kid.
So how do we graduate early? That becomes a big question.
There's a lot of different ways, and typically for a lot of things, even like this, it takes a number of pieces to float the boat, right? It takes a lot of scholarships to make it free or almost free. And to graduate early, it's going to take a lot of different pieces. Some kids can do it with AP. Not all of it, some of it with AP, advanced placement courses. So I take the AP course. I'm a sophomore, junior, senior, AP Calc, AP US History, AP Language, so on and so forth. There's 36 of them. And in May, I test the AP exam test, and the grades are basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Some schools might accept a 3 exam and will count that as not taking Intro to English at ABC University. Some schools want a 4 or 5. So you're not guaranteed taking an AP class that you can skip that class. And even if you can't skip it, you need to have in mind, what is my goal here? Because a lot of kids will take the AP, I want to take Intro to English, I want to get into my major. But you're not saving money. You're just pushing one class aside or 2. So a semester, typically for most schools, is at least 12 credits, up to typically like 18. So you're going to have to show somebody, here's my 12, 15, 18 credits, registrar office. Certainly you can graduate a half year early. So instead of saving 100, I only saved $50,000. That's $50,000. So you can graduate in December. Let's just make sure we get that in there.
Yep.
So there's AP, there's dual credit. We have a lot of kids at our school taking dual credit. Some you can do online. Some you have to go to the community college. For a number of ours, we have some of our classes that are taught by our teachers with our students right there. And mom signs out a form, and mom pays a check for $300, and the students get 3 college credits from a university.
$300 for
300. A typical college credit will cost at least $1,000, somewhere around there. That's a credit. So for one class, it's $3,000 versus $300. Do the math. So I can add up some AP maybe or not, some dual credit or not. What are you doing after sophomore year? What are you doing during that summer? Can I not go to a community college? Can I not go to online? And maybe you might have to get a principal to sign off on it. Don't know what your school's policies are. Can I take intro to psychology? Sure. What are you doing next summer between junior and senior? I'm taking intro to sociology and intro to whatever. What are you doing when you graduate? I'm taking 2 more. All of a sudden, by sophomore year, you have your 15, 20-some credits, and that's how I'm graduating early. And a lot of this, you don't have to be the AP kid either. That's the point. You don't have to be the smarter AP kid. You can be the 3.2 kid, kind of like, I can take this course. I can get a B+. Sure you can. You're only concentrating on one course at a time. It's not the other 5. So you should excel at that. Pour your time into it. I'm lifeguarding, and I'm taking intro to psychology. I think you're probably going to do well. Otherwise, the principal wouldn't have signed off on it. So the graduate early piece, I think everybody really needs to take a hard look at that and think about all those pieces that could be put together, whether you're already past that or, we're already junior, senior, or you've got 6th graders or 9th graders like, hey, what can we do here? I like the idea of that. Let me tell you something, worst case, excuse me. Leave that here. Let's say I get 15 credits. I get 5 classes, and I don't want to finish early. I went to 4 years. I'm at Ohio State. I'm a Buckeye. I want to see every football game, that's great. That's awesome. Don't blame me, right? But I have these 5 classes. Listen to this. So if you're taking 5 classes each semester, let's say you use one of those AP or dual credit courses, and it says you substitute it for your freshman year fall. So instead of everyone's taking 5, you're taking 4. Second semester, you're taking 4, they're taking 5. Now let's think about this logically. Who's going to enjoy school more? The kid taking 4 classes or 5? Who's probably going to get a better GPA? The kid taking 4 or 5? Where's the downside here? It's pay me now or pay me later. I did during the summer. There's no pressure, and now I can enjoy school more. I'm less stressed. That's part 3. And my GPA is probably better. I think everybody should be doing it just for that reason alone. Let alone if I can or want to graduate early, just try to release some of that pressure. Most kids, majority of kids, it's now over 60%, are finishing 5, 6, 7 years out of college. So the minority of students, only about 41%, are finishing your typical 4-year school in 4 years. The majority is now over 4. And we'll kind of get to that in a little bit. You have a question?
No, I think
I'm sorry.
it's great. I think
Okay.
the whole graduate early, I think that's the money right there. But then you're going to also talk to us a little bit about community college.
Community college, I'll say it's similar in that as far as looking at your first year, I can get courses at my community college. But then, can I go to my community college my freshman year? All right, they're going to cost, without UD and Del Tech in Delaware has a seed program, and usually that's a needs-based program where it's really free. But even if you pay full freight, we're looking at a few $1,000s. We're looking like $3,000 for $3,000.
Is that per semester, for a year?
That's for the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, yeah. So if I do that for just even 1 year, and here's my $50,000 school, so 3 minus 50, I just saved our family $47,000. Scholarship, thank you very much. What if I did it for 2 years? I don't like it though, but I'm saving how much? Oh, only $94,000. What don't you like? How about this? You're not going to like this. Go out and buy a brand new Lexus, I don't know, RX, whatever, 450 they're only $58,000. You just saved your family $94,000. Buy your bright red and the Sport Edition. You just saved $30,000, and now you're driving to ABC University or UCLA in your almost brand new red Lexus to California.
And you're still ahead $30,000.
And you're still ahead.
Just
what do you want? Or just buy a used Honda,
so
Civic
maybe you
for
can go to
$18,000.
community college for 2 years.
Sure.
You might be able to tolerate that.
Right. So, and what's the diploma on the wall going to say? Is it going to say, no offense, Del Tech, or is it going to say UCLA? It says UCLA.
Yeah. Doesn't matter
So
where you
is
start.
this an option? Yes,
Finish.
it's an option, and we're going to get some other things, but you might not like it. In a sense, it's not top of my list, it's not my priority, but again, it's an option to be, at least to look at, to consider, and once you consider and talk about it, then cross it off. But don't go farther out into the future and say like, oh man, maybe I should have done that. I could have saved money, or I didn't like this debt, or this check's too big to write. And so at least I want you to think through it logically and talk to it as a family. Online credits is really the same thing, is that I'm just online taking virtual schools for my first year or two. I don't have room and board. Room and board. Let me talk about that for a second. Excuse me. Room and board. I lived at school for 4 years. My parents said, if you want to go to college and live there, that's great. You pay for half of it. I'm like, okay, I was always been working. Here's the money. Boom. Room and board, typically 10, 11, 12,000. I've seen up to 18, and that's not at Harvard, Princeton, Columbia. So you're looking at 4 years worth, $40,000 to $50,000 just to live there. And how many months do you actually live in college out of 12?
Sure, 9 maybe.
Max.
8.
8. So 8 months for $12,000. What's the math on that? Don't do the math on that. That's a lot of money. So you need to be looking, how big a priority is it that Thomas lives away from home for all 4 years? Do I have to do this? And you can say, yes, he has to, but no, that comes at a cost. And nowadays, that's a big cost. So again, just another check on your list. Let's discuss this. Let's have a good argument about it, the pros and cons, and let's sell it and let's move on. Next slide. Loan forgiveness.
That's not what's being talked about.
No, thank you. Yes,
so.
it's not this past summer student loan forgiveness right now for $10,000 or $20,000. This is kind of old school. Let me give you a quick example that sets it straight. I have a friend who went to Hahnemann. If you've heard of that, it's no longer in existence. I think Drexel ate that up. He went to get his physician's assistant degree for 2 years, and he was debt-free out of college, and he wanted to remain debt-free. So they're still out there for healthcare, for attorneys, certainly obviously doctors, for teachers especially as well, where there's government programs. And so what he did is he went for free and he signed up, and they said, you can either work, Steve, in the inner city, you can work in a rural setting, or essentially on the Indian reservation. He chose a rural setting, and they put him in Gettysburg, South Dakota, population 1,450. Depends on the day of the week. One flashing red light. I've been there a few times to visit. Cool place, but South Dakota. And it paid for free. That's a free ride. It's loan forgiveness. It's free.
And you had to work there how long?
He worked there, I think, for an extra year more than that. So 3 years he owed them. This is, I'm looking ahead to the future because there's a lot of kids going to grad school. Typically loan forgiveness might not be for undergrad, but for grad school, but there's a lot of kids. I want to be a PA, I want to be, PT, doctor, attorney. I'm going to get my master's degree in teaching. The government might pay for that if I do this. And some kids are already working in the inner city. Well, then apply for it because then you would qualify. Military, I know that could be a bad word for some people. Like military, you've got to be kidding me. There's the lighter side of the military. The one that I'm more familiar with is nursing. I've sent a few nurses through university's ROTC. They went on to serve. One girl's still working at Walter Reed Hospital in DC. They paid $180,000. They paid it all. And she owed them, I think, like 5 years worth of service, which is working and getting paid. And I think she's still there because she just fell in love with it. That's a free ride. That's $180,000. That's a scholarship and a half. But that's the military. And I know some people, what if I get deployed? What if I'm in this or that? And I understand that. but at least it's an option. Let's look at it. Let's discuss it. We can talk to a recruiter. Are there any safer ways to get around this? And there might be. So that's what we do. So that's an option on the table. College options, very similar to community. Living in Pennsylvania, I live right next to Westchester University, very good university. Tuition is still under $10,000. Again, it's very similar. The education is going to be a little bit more on par with, I'll say, UCLA. Just the standards are higher than a community college. So I go there for $10,000. It's better than $50,000. I go there for another year, and I get my credits transferred. The other thing with this is, again, regarding what I was talking to earlier, you want to do your homework really well. You want to talk to registrar's office and find out, if I attend this university, UCLA, will you accept all of these credits? And they'll let you know, or they even have a spreadsheet now where it'll say Psychology 101 is universal. If you took this and maybe got a B, yes, we'll accept that. So you don't want to just jump into Westchester and say, hey, I'm going to go for 2 years and my grades hopefully will be good enough. Well, you need to do that before you pull that trigger to make sure you're paving that road well with information, with facts, that this makes sense, this is logical, and we're going through it, and I'm speaking to human beings. A lot of people don't like speaking to human beings because we use our phones. I love speaking to human beings. I do it all the time. That's why my throat's dry as well, because that's what I do today, is just speaking with students all day. But I think that's important. And now you have a friend at the admissions office. And now you have friends at different places we'll talk about again later that you want to make those connections with. And that's really important. And it's really important that the student does the talking. Maybe I've sat with kids and I said, you sit here, I'll make the first phone call, because they have 6 or 7 more to do. And I go through, say, hey, I'm talking on behalf of so-and-so. Can you help me? It's on speaker. And they listen. And we go through, and they're able to do that. Second one, we'll breeze through, resident assistant. We kind of spoke about that before. Pay for room and board, partial, all of it. That's up to you, but at least look at it and see if that's something you want to do. It wouldn't start until sophomore year.
So if you're an RA and they're paying for half of your room and board, and you said that room and board might be $12,000 a year,
sure.
$10,000 a year, that's a $5,000 a year scholarship times 4
scholarship.
years. That's
Yeah.
$20,000.
Exactly. Right.
So now our 200 that went to 180, that went to 160, whatever.
Which
Now we're down to 142.
Yeah, we're getting in the
Okay.
basement.
Good. I think
We didn't graduate early.
Well,
graduate
becoming-
early could have been another.
Well,
that
yeah,
could have been.
that's 100
Yeah, that's what I'm
right
saying.
there.
Yeah, we're like at 90.
This is becoming more and more affordable.
Exactly.
Jonathan, I really appreciate you telling us about all this.
All right, losing money. This is easy to do, which is a shame. 44%. This is 6 years ago. First-time bachelor's degree recipients completed a degree 48 months or less after first enrolling post-secondary education. You can find this. This will take you 2 minutes to find that fact. So don't trust me. Look for yourself. Right now, they just updated it. I just looked, and it's down to 41%. It's getting worse and worse. And the main reasons are, as you can see, transferring. And if you've been listening closely, the reason kids are transferring is what? Because they're not doing their homework on the schools. I give kids a list of 80 questions to ask colleges. I say, pick 5, pick 10, pick 15. Ask them your questions. Number 1 should be, what percentage of your graduates in marketing get a job within 30, 60, 90 days? That should be number 1 question, because you're there for the education. Your tuition's for the education. It's not for the country club experience. The girls are cute and the dorms are nice. That's nice. You're there for the degree. The second thing is lack of plan. They're changing their major. Why are they changing their major? Logically, they probably did this much work on working on their major instead of spending this much work. So it's basically, I want this, get out of my way, I want this marketing degree, because I've done all my homework back here. And if I do anything, it might be a tweak. So I need to put all the back-end work in high school. So when I go there, I'm confident. Kids want to be confident. You don't want to have kids coming, yeah, I think I want to go to this school, and I guess I want to major in this. And it's like, if I'm their dad, I'll say, like, honey, I love you, but why should I write a check for a penny when I'm hearing the phrases, I guess, I think so, maybe. We want kids confident, and confidence is going to come from information. I don't know is not going to cut it for anybody.
So what would you say to somebody who is not sure what they want to study
Good question.
going to college?
I hear that a lot. One of the biggest money makers for college, and was it when I was there, is come in undecided. Come in undecided. Spend 5, 6 years. We'll help you figure it out. Boom, right there. No, I need to have a good hand. I should at least be in this part of the pie for social services or for business. I shouldn't be in this part of the pie. And I think, so that's where you can make those little pieces. So if you're not ready, then don't go. If you're not ready, then don't go, work, and maybe take a course or two, keep your head in the game. You know those courses will transfer. You know, some people are like, oh, I'm going to lose my touch. Well, then take a night course and work 40 hours and grow up a little bit, mature. A lot of countries in Europe, you have to take a year off and serve your country, your government. Let's grow up a little bit. There's no, you know.
And that might come back to community college rather than spending.
It could be,
rather
sure.
than spending $50,000 a year on, I'm not sure,
Absolutely.
maybe, I don't know.
Right.
Spend $3,000 a year to take some courses to explore some things
Yeah.
that you might want to learn.
Exactly. And they call them gap years too. Go do this, go do that. So it becomes more work. Total, you can kind of do the math. We've thrown out some other different numbers, but you can see very quickly, Dean Scholarship, if I'm a good student, I'm getting $15,000 a year. There's my resident assistant for $10,000, summer jobs, graduate early, you know, I'm working an extra year. I only have $41,000, or it could be more or less. But I think once you start looking at these things as scholarships, hopefully these things will add up, and it might be like, wow, we really can make a dent in this $200,000 college thing without Nana's help, without whatever's going on. And we haven't even looked at the 529. We haven't, you know what I'm saying? There's so much room. Let's do the last slide, so I know we're running out of time. So you've heard me say this 4-letter word before. You need a plan, who, what, where, when, how. How's it going to be done? What am I going to be doing? I need to shadow people. If I'm going to become a marketer, shouldn't I shadow 3, 4, 5, 6 marketers? When are you going to do that? The summer between junior and senior year. I can't look on TikTok and say, hey, that looks really cool. That's not going to cut it. Maybe the first year for marketers is going to be working 80 hours a week on Saturdays, Sunday nights. Well, I didn't know that. I guess you didn't do your homework. So we need to shadow. We need to find scholarships. We need to plan. And we need to cite the SATs and have some nice big plan. You stick on the fridge. It's fluid. It moves. You add to it. You take away from it. And there's your meeting. The CEO of the LLC is driving this force, and we're all on the same page. So no one's asking questions. No one's bugging. No one's asking. And here we are. And this is what we do to create this.
So do you have a template? When you say everybody needs a plan,
Yeah.
you've kind of mapped it out. You do this for a living.
Yeah.
I know you do a little consulting on the side as
Yeah.
well. Is there a template that you have that you can offer to
Sure.
parents and the students and their parents and that sort of thing?
I have.
So when you say it's on the refrigerator, you have a template.
I have a template that they would just need to almost fill in the blanks. A sample plan. It's very detailed. It's hours, it's places. We also talk about bad study habits, how we're going to change those, procrastination, obviously, things like that. It's like we need to get ready for college because if I'm at Ohio State, Mr. Ekeland and Mommy aren't there to hold my hand. So let's make sure we're getting rid of some things and putting in place what we've gotten rid of for better success. And that's what we want.
Yeah.
We want confidence and we want success.
Well, and I think I think every parent wants their child to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
I've had conversations with people about the fact that as we're raising children, we're raising young adults, our objective here is not to raise dependents.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We want to raise young people who will become independent and move out and carry on humanity.
Right.
So giving them the tools and equipping them, whether it's good study habits in high
Mm-hmm.
school, whether it's a template with a strategy and a game
Mm-hmm.
plan for colleges, this is part of raising independence. This
Yeah.
is part of equipping them.
Yeah.
Well, Summit Guidance, Centered and Sound College Planning, Jonathan Ekeland, with your email address shown there, jekeland24@gmail.com. So that's how people can get a hold of you directly.
Yeah.
I think we also, if we go back a slide, let's go back 2 slides. You can also contact our office at, our phone number there is listed, or contact us at covenantwealthstrategies.com. And we can talk about broad financial planning topics, including college planning, including 529 college savings plans, And of course, we can put you in direct touch with Jonathan as needed. Well, we are right up against the 7 o'clock hour. Michelle, you can throw the slide up there for questions. And I think, in fact, you indicated that we might have had 1 or 2 questions come in already. So why don't we just answer those? If more questions come in during this Q&A time, which is going to be abbreviated, we will get those questions to Jonathan, and we can get you answers to those questions.
Absolutely.
So, Michelle, do you want to address the 1 or 2 questions that have come in already?
Sure. Thanks, Jonathan. That was great.
Sure.
So I have one comment from a listener who wanted to share that they would make their boys fill out scholarships on snow days.
Ooh, nice.
Nice.
And then go sledding. I like that.
Yeah.
That's great. Can I write that one down?
Yeah.
Snow days. I like that. That's great.
Maximize and leverage.
Yeah, you sleep in, but. Yeah.
Exactly. So another question we have, in this whole getting, saving, losing money process, applying for college, what is the hardest part of the process? And then when is a good time to get started?
Wow. 2 questions. The hardest part, I think, is getting the student on board with the plan. I keep kicking nicely and shoving and pushing, and the parents are there. And if the kids can jump in on this and say like, this is the way to do it. This makes sense. And that's why I'm trying to be logical, because they're all emotional, and we can't be. This shouldn't be an emotional piece. This should be logic. And then the emotions come in when it comes to the very end. But I think them to buy in, hate to use that phrase, but I think it's really, they need to buy into this. Like, yeah, I need to do this. This makes sense for me.
For them ultimately.
You know, and here's the carrot, and I can start work early, and I like that. And here's the Lexus, whatever it's going to be, you know, and here is those things. When should you start? We give like the PSATs to 9th graders, so there's always that thing spinning. Obviously the grades, and you know what your student can do. I can only do a 3, I can do a 3.8. You know, so academics are so important. But as far as the colleges, if there's an older sibling, certainly I would hope that the younger sibling is going on the visits, sniff around. It always can't hurt to take a look around and see, like, I like this about the school, I don't like this about the school, is there something like this for me? So there's, I think, smaller things to get involved. 10th grade, what we do is career piece, which is, I think, also very important. How am I wired? And again, that gets into the shadowing piece. So I think there's some small pieces. I would not want to thrust a whole barrage on a 14-year-old. It's like, you're killing, you know, you're killing me. That might turn them off, but slowly get their feet wet and doing some small pieces like, oh, this is cool. I like this. I want to be a part of this or not that. And in the finances, what is this? And some parents engage their kids with, this is what we have. This is what Nana's putting in. This is what we're looking to do. They should learn budgets too.
Yeah.
They should learn budgets. How big is that check? Oh my goodness, I had no idea. I thought the ATM was the money tree behind our house, you know, whatever it's going to be.
So probably too early to talk about college planning with my 3-year-old.
Correct.
Okay.
Kindergarten, then we can throw out Ohio State University t-shirt.
Start budgeting and
exactly.
teaching them some financial
Get
literacy.
some swag going.
Ohio shirt, t-shirt to fit your 3-year-old.
Yeah.
It's not too early.
No,
I would say
exactly.
a few things. I would say we share with our clients that it's important to plan for the future because that's where you're going to live the rest of your life. And so I can share that with a 40 or 50 or 60-year-old client, but I can also share that with a 10-year-old, right? It's important to plan for the future because that's where you're going to live the rest of your life. And that's, I think, maybe a helpful concept in helping your students to take ownership. A few of the things that we did when we gave our kids an allowance or when they earned money for their job charts, which, you know, I'm a financial advisor and I'm totally into child labor at home, right? And so our kids had job charts when they were probably 5 or 6 years old. Maybe they had to, you know, put water out for the guinea pig or something like that, right? But they would get paid, and we would take a portion of what they got paid, and they had to put it aside for a tithe to the church, and then they had to take another portion and put it aside for the future, and they didn't even know what the future was, but they were saving for the future, right? And then they could spend the rest of it. And this was at 5 or 6 years old. So, you know, it's never too early to teach your kids financial principles, to teach your kids to plan for the future, and to teach your kids.
You're not using the word college, it's just future,
whatever the future is.
Sure,
right?
Absolutely.
But I mean, we see adults who are financially illiterate.
Yeah.
And you're not learning it in college, you're not necessarily learning it in high school, right? So anything that a parent can do to help teach financial literacy to the
Absolutely.
children, right? Totally in favor
What's
of
a
that.
checkbook? What's this? Absolutely, all those things. What
Yeah.
is that?
Yeah.
Well, it's boring, but it's hard, and you got to
Right?
do it.
I mean,
So-
I encountered somebody who
Yeah.
said, well, I can't be overdrawn. I still have checks left. I mean, that's where we
Right,
are. with
right.
financial
There
literacy.
you go. There you go.
So, well, Jonathan, thank you so very, very
You're
much
welcome.
for being with us this evening. We appreciate your time, and we're glad that you can come back and join us. And
Yeah.
I think that we covered a lot of great ground, and we talked about if the cost is $50,000 a year, here's a dozen different ways
Mhm.
that you can knock that down and reduce your costs, and whether it's through grants or scholarships, loans, yes, but understand what loans are and the fact that you have to repay them. But there's a lot of different ways to help reduce the, per se, cost of college. So whereas we can help people save for the cost of college through 529s and that sort of thing, the ideas that you brought to the table this evening really show them how to save on the cost of college. And I think that's just very, very powerful. So thank you very much for joining us. Michelle, thank you for staying and running technology for us. This will be posted to our website. If you have questions, if you'd like to review, it'll be posted to the website, and or you can contact us directly, and of course we'd be happy to assist you. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Have a great evening. God bless.